It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this. It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
Hey, welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show, coming live on Friday nights at midnight Eastern, and we take a look at what happened this week and what's going on in the Second Amendment. Let me know if the fans are too loud over here. Got a fan right by my feet going pretty loud. I might turn it down. All right, so let me know if that's too loud. All right, so we're going to jump into our Substack, which is essentially the description of this video, but in a much easier to see format for those of us that are watching this live. We go live on Friday nights at midnight Eastern so that we can wrap up the week. We do that in a video. We go over the information that's in the description of that video. And as you can see, we put that on Substack. We put that on Patreon. We put that on a couple other places on the internet each week. The idea is to, well, create an archive and a consistent focus on what our Second Amendment protects rather than just the gun stuff. A lot of people focus on that. So let's dig in. We've got a couple of things that happened this week, and we'll divide it up between the 2A news of the week. Then we'll get into the stuff that we watched that had to do with Second Amendment stuff. Then we'll get into the stuff that we watched this week that had to do with gun-related stuff. Then we've got some radio shows, some military interview shows, and the stuff that we did this week. All right, so let's get back to the beginning of everything, and we'll say thanks to the people joining us live. It looks like we only have Voids joining us live tonight. Nobody else is out there. But we have a lot of people joining us on the podcast, so we always say thanks to those folks. So if we jump open to here, and somewhere in here is our podcast. We've consolidated the podcast over on Podbean. You don't have to listen to it there. You can listen to it on all the different platforms. But for us, it lets us monitor or kind of see how many people are listening. And we really appreciate the number of people that are listening to the podcast. It's pretty cool. So please leave us some feedback on whatever platform you're listening. It does help out a lot. Right on. So there's your picture of your dog with my dog being gross right there on top of it, which is what he would probably do in real life. And there he is looking right next to your dog. All right. So, well, you're at least 3 viewers, right? The 2 puppies and you. So that's 3 viewers. All right. So we have some news of the week. I get this from the NSSF newsletter that comes out on Fridays. Give them credit. They've been doing that much earlier in the day on Friday, which makes it much easier for me since I have a couple of meetings early in the day. So I'm able to do a lot of this work earlier than I used to. So thanks to NSSF. Essentially get the extract of that. They just really link to a bunch of news articles that happened during the week, and those news writers, I guess they get paid by the word, so lots of extra words in there. So to get the bullet points out of all that is what we'll take a look at here. So of course the Cargill versus the loser went to the Supreme Court, and that struck down the bump stock ban, which is one layer of things that happened. Keeping in mind with the federal bump stock being removed, that doesn't eliminate, there's bans at the state levels. So instead of gloating and thinking of this as a win-loss and we won a battle, let's think of it as awareness and how we can challenge the ignorance that put these bans up in the first place. We didn't win anything. We watched a bunch of shit happen. We have an opportunity to roll up our sleeves and make this part happen. So looking forward to seeing some initiatives towards that. And of course, we still have, or we had immediately a bump stock ban bill get brought up in the House, and it died in the Senate. Or wait, did it come up in the Senate? I forget where it got brought up, but it essentially died immediately. Partisan lines. So people say partisan blah, 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 but partisan lines this time. Let's see. So next we have an article in the NSSF email that I get a lot of this information from. Oh, puppy, you're burning up. All right. You want to go back down? You go back down. He's going to go back down. He likes to lay on the concrete floor. Go outside with Nello. Oh, we can turn off his camera since the co-host has left us. I'm encouraging him to go outside with Nello. We'll see if he does or not. Because it's way warmer in here than it is outside. I should start doing this show outside. Let's see. So then we have NSSF prioritizing cybersecurity awareness. That's super good. I like that. That's much more useful if we were capable with our cyber period and cybersecurity specifically. We'd be better off. We let people have a pass who don't keep up with tech. You don't have to know all the tech, but we should all be keeping up as a group a lot more than we do. So I'm glad to see NSSF focusing on this. We'll see if they continue to focus on it and how big of impact it has. Let's see. And this is essentially hardening gun shops. Sounds like maybe manufacturers and other industry, but it sounds like it's a initiative for gun shops who are the target of some abuse right now. It's interesting because I haven't heard about that except for this first time I've heard about that as well. The next one on the list is gun control falls in the list of voter priorities according to a Fox poll. So evidently Fox News did a poll recently and asking voters what their priorities were. And according to the poll, or according to the information I read about the poll, guns came in 7th out of 10. But the first was by 68%, I think, a concern for the future of democracy. So where the fuck does that come from? Somebody tell me how that happened. But concern for the future of democracy. I guess the sky is falling pays, and the people who get paid to do that don't feel like the consequences are their fault. No single drop thinks it's responsible for the flood, that whole thing. So that's interesting. And I think number 2 is the economy. So for what it's worth. So gun control is at 7 out of 10 as far as concern. That's a lot of effort to hype it up as a concern as well. So I consider that to be a victory, but I don't know if we did anything for that other than really vague stuff like normalized guns. I mean, that certainly was an aspect of that. We certainly didn't make guns scary and weird, so that's good. But that's not something we did as much as something we didn't do, which is good, but it's different than getting together and doing something. But that's good news, I would say. There's a debate with the president, what do they call it, candidates, on Thursday, in case anybody's not paying attention. I knew there was going to be 2 of them. I didn't know the first one was coming up this Thursday. Let's see, America's attitudes. The next one on the list is America's attitudes toward hunting and sports shooting 2024 is a report that came out. And according to that report, the support for hunting and shooting is at 76%. And that sounds pretty good, but that's 5 points lower than it was just a couple of years back in 2021. It was 81%. So I just threw that in there. I think that's bad news. It's not earth-shattering, sky is falling news, but something to consider. Next up is NSSF gunpowder supply chain bill. So that's a sentence, or it's really just some words, but that represents a big chunk of their email this week. So it's a big concern for NSSF, and I'm wondering if I just haven't paid attention in the past, or if this is something new for NSSF to be this concerned about the gunpowder supply chain. So I don't know if I like it, but I guess the industry does have to talk amongst themselves. But I think there might be some security, some strategic stuff there that they could probably shut up about and maybe do it less publicly. But I don't know. Next up is HR 6492, expanding public lands outdoor recreation experience, which is their dumb way of saying the Explore Act, is sitting in the Senate. So I report on this one because there is some stuff in there that has to do with firearms, but pretty sure if this is the one I'm thinking about, it also messes with wilderness areas, and I like wilderness areas, so I'm on the fence on this one. I'm all about public land shooting, but I'm all about having some areas of our public lands set aside for wilderness. The idea that we're a country that we all own and that our shared public lands are regulated or monitored or, entrusted to agencies that are, their job is to make sure that it's there for our grandkids. They might not always be right, but they have the good intentions typically. So people that say there shouldn't be like any control over public lands make no sense to me because they've never been in public lands. Obviously, there's some rank assholes out there that would fuck the shit out of our public lands if there weren't people out there stopping them. So I'm a big fan of wilderness. That's areas of our country that we together share that you can't bring any kind of motor or any kind of vehicle onto. And that's the difference between us and stupid Europe. Europe destroyed everything. Well, I guess world wars didn't help being happening right on their land, but it's also the what do they call them? The ice ages is what really wailed on them. So Europe has mountains that go north and south, and our mountains go north and south. Their mountains go east and west, according to what I've heard. So when the ice ages happened, our forests gradually accepted the ice ages, and they dealt with it. And a bunch of our old trees survived. Their ice ages, the way the ice age hit Europe, like most of their old forests and shit got taken out a long time ago. So anyway, we're just different than them, and we have different resources than they do. So they don't see much, they like shared public lands, but I dig the fact that we preserve some of ours here. And Canada has less than 5% old growth. Like they just tore through their forests as well because somebody else owns Canada. They just live there, right? So when other countries don't care about the place, they tear through it and they're left with 5% of their public lands. 5% of their old growth forest. I forget what ours is, but because we have wilderness, some of ours still exist. We have trees that are fucking old. Other countries don't do that. And again, do you want your grandkids to look at parks or, like city parks or national parks? You know what I mean? Like, I like the idea of having some parts of our country the same as they were since the beginning of everything. So, like I say, I'm kind of on the fence on that one. So let's go to the last one. Louisiana governor signed SB 301, the Second Amendment Financial Privacy Act, which I believe is just one of those you can't put a code on gun shops. And I could care less about that one, but I know a lot of people really like that one. So I guess, good. So that one's been sitting around in Louisiana, and they finally signed it. So at least we can quit talking about it. There's I don't know now, 6 or 10 states that have done these. It's kind of like the anti-NFA. It's the state bills that prevent the state from helping with any kind of gun control. And, they essentially stop. They tell this, it's a state saying, we're not going to help the federal government if they come around here trying to infringe. So I don't have a problem with these, but they don't really do anything unless the federal government tries to push. So they're essentially just warnings or preventative steps. All right, so that was the news. Most of that, again, came from just about all that came from the NSSF newsletter that comes out. You can subscribe to that. It's free. I get the one called the Industry. I think it's the Industry newsletter. Oh, Government Relations Update, it's called. And like I say, it's been coming out a little earlier on Friday, so it's pretty cool. All right, so next we'll get into the 2A talk. I think the most important thing that happens each week is Brooke Cheney's effort on focusing on mental health awareness and suicide prevention. Each week she goes usually less than a half hour, but she'll go live for a while in the evening on Saturday to focus on these issues. And we know as gun owners that we're told that guns are so dangerous, and they use numbers that include suicide, and then they seem to use the numbers that include suicide and then attempt to describe either crime or other situations, either knowing or riding on the fact that 2 out of 3 deaths with a firearm are from suicide, and they'll rarely make that distinction. So, one, it's up to us to frame the discussions in a more realistic way for those people in the middle, or potentially to let those people on the other side know they're regurgitating exploitive numbers. But as important, if not more important, would be the idea that we might help people through that tough time when they're debating that ultimate choice. So having the ability to have conversations about it and bring it up and challenge the logarithms, as we're seeing as this show, I'm sure Brooke's show happens all the time, but this show's been a victim of, I guess, censorship or whatever you want to call it, like the platforms crapping on this show because we talk about Brooke's show, which talks about prevention of suicide, but the logarithm here is suicide. It can't differentiate between that and a negative issue, so it just takes the show out. It's frustrating. So for all those reasons, Brooke's effort is valued and valid. So if you're going to support one thing each week, I'd recommend it be Brooke's show. But she's not the only one doing stuff. We'll go to Alex from Indiana doing the Forge of Freedom podcast a couple of times a week. They'll come on and focus on different things. And this one is a pretty long focus on the ruling from the bump stock, Cargill and decision. And you'll see somebody who actually gives a shit, paying attention, and has a focus, is calling it the Cargill decision and not the Garland decision, because the Garland was the loser. All right, so, and it's also the government. So why don't we call it the gun shop owner in Texas who did a radio show for however many decades, Michael Cargill? Why don't we call it what it is, his winning case against the Supreme Court? So now we have Heller, who's still kicking, McDonald, who passed away recently, well, in the last few years, I guess, and then Rhonda Ezel, who has been around for this show before, or wait, no, she was on a Saturday show before, who's taken Chicago to the Supreme Court and won twice. We have New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus the loser, whoever it was. And now we have Cargill, Michael Cargill, versus the loser. I don't know who the other one was. Garland. So anyway, this is a 45-minute discussion with Alex and his dad talking about that decision and what's next for braces and that kind of thing. My favorite attorneys, period, because they're not trying to get rich and famous. They're just trying to break it down and have real discussions and move on. They're not trying to hype nothing. It's pretty refreshing, since pretty much every other legal focus is at this point hype. Or am I crazy? Am I wrong? All right, so Four Boxes Diner coming on and talking about Rahimi. Then we've got, I can't think, meeting the pressers. There we go. Hanging out with Rebecca Schmoy at the NRA meeting, and I guess they decided to go to Las Vegas and go to some room at the top of a hotel and film this. I don't know where NRAM was. Or no, it was in Dallas. So I guess this must be somewhere in Dallas. I didn't watch this yet, so I don't know if anybody watched it. It's like 45 minutes long. I haven't had time to watch it. Then we have the gun talk that we'll talk about. And I'm going to take a moment and say hey to DJ and then drink some of this water, because I've been talking for half an hour. No, for 19 minutes. So why don't we do a commercial for Gizzard, the show that was on just before the show.
This is Earl Benson reporting from downtown Topeka, where Gizzard Gary is rampaging through the city. Authorities have asked the public to stay indoors. They believe he will tire soon and need a nap. Gizzard Gary can normally be seen on Foul Territory Friday nights at 7 p.m. Central. Wednesday, 8 p.m. for the channel members chat. Stay safe and give him the bird. Earl Benson signing off.
All right, so we'll take a look at some of the shows that are talking about guns this week. And I usually start off with She Fire. She'll do a show on Sunday afternoons. This week she was talking about Father's Day gifts. I think I was like half asleep listening to this one, so I don't remember this whole show. Then we've got Tuesday. Tony Simon joins the Guns and Gear Review panel, and they talk about guns and gear, and they review it. It's more of a podcast, I guess. They don't sit around talking to the audience the whole time. It just makes for a faster paced show, I guess. They have a bunch of segments and they go through them. So it's been an interesting listen to that one. It happened the same time as Ghost is on. So this week I was on with Crump, and unless you watch the show live, you're not going to be able to watch it again because he played a chunk of NBC. What is that show called? Saturday Night Live. And now he can't run this video anymore. So there you go. This is the other attorney show I watch, talking about dash cams. So I'm pro dash cam. In this video, they're essentially mixed. She's anti-dash cam and he's pro dash cam. So I don't know if you've got an opinion on that, but I am pro dash cam, especially since I've used one now for a while. I find them super useful for creating content and stuff as well. A couple of shows that happen each week, hosted by BM Foss. The Overnight, which comes on Saturdays, every other Saturday. And then the Mouse Party, which is unscripted and no topics. And that one happens every Wednesday. And since it happened last week, we should not anticipate one this week. And we will see another Wednesday night Mouse Party coming up on Wednesday. G23 is out there. Welcome. Saying he has a dash cam. Right on. I think they're useful. Let me go check and see how many people. Man, there's only a couple of people watching on X tonight. So FYI, sometimes we have a lot of people watching on X. I must be falling asleep. I don't drink coffee anymore. So I was on with Yankee shooting left center. Matt wasn't there, so it's just me and Yankee. Then we had Tony talking about the diversity shoot. Now that happened last night, but he started a new range in Lakewood, New Jersey called the We Shoot. And I haven't watched the videos from it yet, but that's cool. They've already got it all set up to run there every other month, I think. There's a bunch of radio shows that happen, but I think I either missed them or I didn't write them down. I think I missed them. I think this week was one of those weeks where I just didn't have much time to watch stuff as normal. So usually I talk about the Cape Gun Works episodes that are in here. They do one on Sunday, on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday. And then San Diego Gun Owners will be in here. And I'm pretty sure they did a show. Their show's like 2 hours plus. And they'll take down their show and chop it up and put it up as separate pieces, which is a strategy. But in my opinion, you leave both up. You leave the long one and like the original, and you put it down and chop it up. But you don't have to pull it down. I don't know why they do that, I don't know why they do it. But it means I rarely bother to link to them, because half the time I link to them, I just get a dead spot like that other video where it was gone. So I think I did listen to that show. I'm not sure. I think I did listen to that show, and I was working on some things. And then we got the gun calendars. If you head over to guncalendars.com, that's where, thanks to our Patreons, we have essentially a gun calendar. And there's a whole bunch of lists over there. I was just going through it, trying to figure out if I should go to Goals. I just got invited to go to Goals finally. They're not paying for nothing, but they said I could go. But it's going to cost like $2,500 to drive, plus probably more like $3,500 by the time you pay for everything. So I don't have that kind of money to fly out there. It's like $1,000, but then I got to put the dogs up, so it's getting to be close to. Usually ends up being about the same price to drive or to fly, and still debating what's to do on that. But if you want to go check out those kind of events, go check out guncalendars.com. All kinds of anniversaries, holidays, and things to plan for. Gun things that are on our calendar, could be on our calendars as gun owners. All right, so then we get to the military interview shows. I've been enjoying this. Well, I guess enjoying. I'm not going to say I like it because I really hate the editing style, and they're too short. So I don't know why they make videos that are less than an hour, but they do. But they're the only ones talking about these issues, so you gotta like it. But this Borderland, I guess Ironclad is the channel, and they have like 3 different shows, I think, or more, but 3 that I've seen. And Borderland is this guy who I think he was Border Patrol, and then he brings on people as an interview show. It's an only interview show. That's all he does is bring people on, interview them. And I think he's sitting right there. I think they're just sitting in a room together. And it's cut in. There's a lot of editing and stuff. It's definitely a company that has a ton of editing and a ton of expensive lights and cameras. So there's way too much money spent on production, in my opinion, and they cut it off at an hour. So I don't know. They don't mention that it's going to PayPal or something. Not PayPal, Patreon. Like you have to go watch the rest of it behind a paywall or something. But because there are some channels that have been doing that recently for their interviews. But I think it's just the style of this show that they are quick. All right. So does this AR not have a pistol grip on it? I'm pretty sure that AR has no pistol grip on it. Just FYI. So anyway, it was a good one. It was an okay one. It was with a guy who, what was his deal? I think he's just a reporter, but it's got some, it's interesting to hear, and he definitely has his life experience, but he's got some crazy ideas, I think, on how to handle things or the way things are. But whatever, we'll keep moving on. Mike Drop just came out with a show the other day with this guy, Zach, who's a SEAL and now doing some kind of, I forgot who the company he works with is, but he works with a company and does a segment of their training. Then we have that Ironclad again. So Borderland is one of the channels or one of the shows on here. And this one I think is the main show. And then there's another self-defense show and maybe a 4th or something. But on this show, this guy's trying to be like Joe Rogan, I guess. And he interviews like a wide variety of people. In this one, he's interviewing Kevin Costner for about 45 minutes. Actually, not even. It's more like a half an hour. And then he spends another 15 minutes with a clip, reacting to the clip from the movie. I listened to this one, but I was doing a bunch of stuff while I was listening, so I might go back and re-listen. But essentially, I'm pretty sure Kevin Costner just wanted to make a good movie, and he spent his own money on it instead of going through the studios. It's interesting. I just watched something about Arnold Schwarzenegger not too long ago, and he did that with a movie with the Danny DeVito. I forget which one. And it was a comedy, and they ended up making bank. So, way more money they could have ever the movie was a success, but DeVito and Schwarzenegger made more money than they would have ever made as just playing actors because they made the movie. And that's what it sounds like Costner is doing, is trying to since he knows everything involved, he's getting everything together and becoming the movie studio so that he doesn't need the movie studio, and then that way they don't influence it and they don't take a mega chunk of the profits, so that he can pay people more and make the movie the way he wants it. $100 million though, so it shows you how much money some of these guys have. All right, so then we've got me and Tony do the Ask Gun questions. This last week was episode 1776, and then I think it was a pretty long show too. We ended up BSing quite a while. And then we have, we did a creator workshop on Tuesday talking about making income online and ways to do that. Unless you're independently wealthy, you want to do stuff towards, for the second member protects. And like I said, unless you're independently wealthy, you can do it because you got nothing else to do and you got money. Everybody else has to make money to be able to spend time on this stuff. So that was an attempt here, is to talk about some of that stuff or some of those options. All right, with that being said, we're going to wrap it up. Nobody's saying anything out there, and I'm sick of doing these shows and just talking and talking. So if you want to see the show go a little bit longer next time, be part of the show, interact. Say thanks to DJ for dropping a bunch of links out there. Link to Brooke's show. That'll happen tomorrow. He linked to her channel. I wish she had her show up because then I could link to it already. Defense Dad is joining us. Welcome. G23 jumped in here as well. And Woods was out here. If there was other people out here, they didn't say anything. So they're not vaporware. They just didn't say anything. So with that, we'll say thanks to the people joining us to be a podcast as well. Looking forward to those thumbs up or hearts or likes or whatever they are. Those really do help on those platforms. Not very many people go back and interact with the podcast platforms. So if you do decide after hearing this, hey, I'm going to go in there and give this podcast a thumb up, then go to your list of other podcasts you listen to, and I suggest you do the same. You obviously value those podcasts as well, and the same applies to them. We don't get a lot of people who interact with those podcast platforms, so our thumbs and our likes and our hearts over there are, you're getting way more bang for your buck over there. Like, we get a lot from that, where on YouTube and stuff, it's nice, it's necessary, but everybody thumbing up isn't gonna make or break. But on the podcast, it really can. It can determine which podcasts get recommended, and that can be a big deal. So I do appreciate it. And like I say, if you're out there doing it for us, consider doing it for all those shows that you value, because I'm sure you listen to other podcasts. So again, thanks for everybody for joining us, and we'll throw a couple of commercials out here at the end. We already mentioned Gizzard does his show. She Fires does her show on Sunday. Of course, Brooke does her show tomorrow. We also have a store, and if you'd like to support us as capitalists, you can do that in a couple of ways. Patreon is where people join in and help us to do things like drive around the country and find gun shops and different events. But the funnest part was the museums. One of the reasons I want to drive to that GOA thing is, one, I haven't been on the road for a long time, but two, there are 3 new museums I could visit on that trip. Essentially, if I can get to Arkansas by going through the panhandle of Texas, I can hit 3 museums that I've been itching to visit, and visit something like 7 altogether on that trip, because there's a bunch that are on that route. So it'd be neat to get out there and visit some museums, not necessarily in August. It'd be much nicer to do it in like November or something when it's nice out. But it's not a done deal or anything. It's going to cost a lot of money, and the van isn't really in the condition to do a road trip, really. So it would mean some repairs and stuff before, but there is time to do it. So all that being said, thanks to the people who support our projects on Patreon. That keeps the websites up. It keeps the servers running. It keeps the podcasts and everything going. It also pays for some software that we use to keep things moving. But, it's not paying all the bills. We're not living off of Patreon. So we do appreciate the people that purchase things from our Gear website store as well. It has a bunch of different things that are available that we've created over the years for either the Gun Channels community or all the affiliated things, the projects like Every Second Matters that came along during all that, and some of the events like the road trips and the patch batches. Patches are cool. They're part of our community, part of our industry, and we've enjoyed making those over the years. And the store has a bunch of the leftovers, a bunch of the, you buy 500 patches to give away 300, and you hope like hell the other 200 sell to pay for that 500 that you bought. So those are the stuff that's over at the store. It's the part of the batches that were designed to pay for the other side of it that we gave away. So we really do appreciate the people that buy stuff over there. We've also got the playing cards, like projects that we went online live for months at a time, usually, to create the content and then have them turned into cards here in the United States, printed in Texas and Kentucky, depending on which deck you're talking about, and we're proud of that. So we do have those kind of things over at the store, and you can buy those things. I guess I could have spent some time actually looking at the store this whole time. We appreciate the capitalists out there who understand that this stuff doesn't just happen, that it requires funds and time, and the stores make that. The store is one of the ways that happens. So we're going to be adding other stuff over there, and of course you can join us on Whatnot and eBay. I've been moving a lot of the big stuff on eBay, and then we do the fun stuff and the little stuff on Whatnot, the cheap stuff. But you can find all that through the store, as well as just stuff like the patches and whatnot. Fridays are Free Patch Friday, which means you get free stuff when you purchase on Friday. And it means we get paid bills every weekend. That's the best part. It's been kind of sparse, so we do appreciate the few people that have been purchasing from the store. And we'll throw a quick commercial out for that. We'll be here tomorrow for Ask On Questions with Tony. Thanks for joining.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
All right. Well, Puppy heard the noise, so he thinks that the show is starting, even though it's actually ending. But there's our puppy co-host again joining us. He came back up because he thinks the show's starting. No one's even going to say hello to the puppy. It's that kind of evening. So all the people listening as a podcast know that there's a puppy on the screen, and nobody's even saying anything to the puppy. It's been that kind of a show.
Sorry to bother you, Ripley, but do you happen to know where I might find help designing a logo?
That's easy. Just head over to GearWebsites.com and they can help you out. While you're there, why not check out all the wonderful 2A-related items for sale? Jimmy, put that down. GearWebsites.com!
This is the ASMR part of the show where the dog gets fed biscuits with noises. It's like he doesn't even know how to eat off of a tiny fork. Now the other dog is giving me the guilt eye. I got to give her one.